Today's episode is supported by our friends at the Heinz History Center and their exhibit, Pittsburgh's Hidden History. All the curators got to bring up some of their favorite pieces, all from storage, and a lot of these items are on display for the very first time. You will see a mini dress made of aluminum, old menus from local restaurants, the nostalgia, and a spooky vampiress from an old Kennywood ride. It is such a cool peek into Pittsburgh's past and also the minds of our Heinz History Center curators. And remember, kids 17 and under get free admission to the museum every single day, thanks to the Cayman Free for Kids initiative. For more information and to plan your visit HeinzHistoryCenter.org. Today's episode is supported by the Frick Museum and Gardens. This is the final week to catch their exhibit, The Scandinavian Home, Landscape and Lore, so there's only a few days left to check out this cozy collection. The exhibit is full of magic thanks to princesses, gnomes, and other mythical creatures, so it's a great place to take your whole family. It's also the biggest private collection of Scandinavian art outside of Scandinavia, so there is a lot to browse, like furniture, paintings, sculpture, and more. The Fricks exhibit is the first time all of these objects have been publicly displayed together, so it's definitely worth spending a chilly winter day inside a warm and cozy gallery. This Sunday, January 11th, is your last chance to see the Scandinavian Home, Landscape and Lore. Get your tickets at thefrickpittsburgh.org. This is CityCast Pittsburgh. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. We were supposed to talk about our birthday today. This weekend, CityCast is celebrating 4 years, bringing you news, events, goofy stuff to know here in Pittsburgh. And we did record a very fun show talking about milestone birthday ideas here in Pittsburgh. For our part, we're including 16, 18, 21, even 26, because then you get off your parents' insurance. And of course, the round numbers. We are still going to share that with you soon. But it just felt weird to talk about ourselves today, given the news that dropped yesterday. The owners of the Post-Gazette, which includes the history and archives of Pittsburgh stories going back 200 years, announced that they are closing the paper, not today, on May 3rd, so T-minus 4 months, which is better than they did a couple weeks ago for Pittsburgh City Paper. Today, I'm with friend of the pod, Andrew Conte, to talk about what all of this means. Hi, Andy. What a day.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me on. It feels like a shock. I mean, the owners of the Post-Gazette have been talking about making this move for a long time and warning people they've been losing millions of dollars and that they would do this. But when they actually said they were going to do it, it feels very real and very shocking.
Yeah. And I mean, you've been watching the Pittsburgh media scene for a long time. I first got to know you when we were both reporters at the Pittsburgh Trib, which has also evolved quite a bit over the years. Now you work over there at Point Park University for the Center of Media Innovation. I mean, in terms of the landscape of Pittsburgh media and our stories and how we record our own history, what does this mean to you?
It feels pretty seismic, not just for the journalism community. And I feel terrible for all the journalists that are going to lose their jobs from this. And, you know, we've had many friends and colleagues who've lost their jobs in the last few days, the last few weeks, the last few months, certainly the last few years. If you think about a decade ago, we have far fewer journalists telling the stories of our communities. And that hurts all of us.
And not just the big ones, too, you know, like small papers, the ones that were going to like the county commission meetings, the school board meetings, things like that. Like, it's trite, I guess, but like democracy dies in darkness is not just a tagline for the Washington Post. It is a real thing.
Well, I think that might have ruined the word democracy. But I think the point is that, you know, since the first pioneers came over the Allegheny Mountains, the Post-Gazette has been here telling the stories of our communities in some version. You know, the paper goes way back to you know, the oldest paper this side of the Alleghenies. Yeah. And literally from birth to death, they tell the stories of our communities, right? These kinds of news organizations do that. And it's also, it's the government accountability, of course, but also sports and features and restaurant reviews and the goodness section and all these things that contribute to the ways that people interact with local news and information that they use to make decisions about their daily lives. And the crazy thing about it, in this moment, if you ask people on the street and say, like, do you have enough access to information? They say, like, oh, yeah, I've got tons of information. I'm inundated with it. It's overwhelming.
More than I need, yeah.
Right. But what's missing is the work that journalists do, that they put in the effort to make sure the information is accurate and objective and relevant and reliable. And that's what's causing the confusion.
And even some of my favorite influencers too, like, I mean, they're still pulling from journalistic outlets. Like the way they're able to do their content creation relies on places like the PG. I mean, let's step back and level set. Like, who's making this choice? Who are the Blocks? Tell us about their role with the Post-Gazette.
Yeah, so the Block family has owned the Post-Gazette and the Toledo Blade, but as part of a larger media company that also includes cable stations in Toledo and, a cable network in Toledo. And until recently, it also included the city paper, which, closed on New Year's Eve. And they take a lot of pride in the fact that they have been providing news information to this community. And I think that's one thing that I hope doesn't get lost in this or diminished, is that a lot of people, the knee-jerk reaction is just to blame the Blocks for closing the paper. But the reality is, like, the Blocks have been investing millions of dollars in making sure that Pittsburgh had a newspaper and that Pittsburgh had Pittsburgh City Paper. I mean, the Butler Eagle owned the paper before that and the City Paper, and they were owners before the Butler Eagle take it on. So all these, families have been supporting local news. You and I worked for Dick Scaife at the Tribune Review, and Dick got a lot of grief for his political views,
rightly
because he's
so.
Very conservative,
Yeah.
Rightly so, perhaps. But in reality, he was investing tens of millions of dollars
Per year.
At the end, per year, into ensuring that Pittsburgh had two independent news voices. That said, where's the role for the public? When I look at City Paper and people want to blame the Blocks for closing it, but at the same time, like, what were you do? All the City Paper asked people to do was pick up our free newspaper, take a look at it, and throw it away. Or like walk into an advertiser and say, like, hey, thanks for buying an ad in this newspaper. They weren't asking you to buy a subscription.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think some of these numbers have been kind of nebulous to us, like the public, for a long time. Like Block Communications, or the family version of that, has owned the Post-Gazette for almost 100 years. Like, that's honestly part of what shocks me about this, is because I really thought, like, they've been talking about wanting to reach that, like, century mark for a long time. I thought they were going to get there, which I think is this year, before making this choice, but I guess that ship has sailed. But they said in a news release yesterday that over the past 20 years alone, so a fifth of that time, they've lost $350 million in cash operating, just the Post-Gazette. That doesn't include whatever they may have also sunk into City Paper, which they owned since 2023. So just a small amount of time by comparison, but that is an enormous amount of money to just drop and not recoup. Not that they can't afford it necessarily, but it's still a lot to invest.
I mean, it's a question, like, what can you afford, right? I mean, a lot of people are saying they can't afford to support local news in any way. So, like, if each of us just did little things to support local news, like pick up the free newspaper, look at, the news organizations, tune in, be a part of it. CityCast, be a subscriber, listen to CityCast on a regular basis, help build up the numbers of CityCast. You're not asking people to even open their wallets. You're just asking them to be part of this community, like, be part of it. And so if you care about it, if you want to, you value access to reliable news and information, you got to do things to get yourselves involved. I mean, I wrote a whole book, The Death of the Daily News, about what happens after a newspaper closes. And the challenge there was that people no longer knew what they could trust and what they couldn't trust. And then they started getting frustrated and overwhelmed. And that's what happens in this news ecosystem when you don't have trained journalists, people that you do trust. So, hug a journalist today, do something nice for a journalist,
Buy them a drink.
Buy them a subscription. If you can afford a subscription, buy a subscription. If you can't afford a subscription,
share their work.
Tune in where you can. Share their work in responsible ways. Like, do the things, let them know. Interact with the journalist. I mean, you guys at CityCast, you create all these opportunities for your listeners to be involved, to meet you, to be part of your community. That's all you're asking for people to like, just be present with us.
Today's show is brought to you by PA Preferred. PA Preferred makes it easy to choose local and support the farmers who grow and make the food and the products that we rely on every day. It's Pennsylvania's official brand for local, and they say the variety is incredible. Pennsylvania is not just dairy and sweet corn. We are the #1 mushroom-producing state in the country. We've got apples, hops, honey, maple syrup, flowers, even fibers from alpacas and sheep, plus jams, preserves, hardwood products, craft beverages, dog treats, ice cream. If you love it, chances are a Pennsylvania farmer or maker is behind it. If you want to find PA Preferred products near you, start at papreferred.com. You can search for farms, farmers markets, and local producers in your neighborhood. And with the 2026 Pennsylvania Farm Show coming up, it's the perfect time to explore everything our ag community has to offer. This year's theme, Growing a Nation, celebrates how Pennsylvania agriculture has shaped America. And you can see it all at the Farm Show in Harrisburg. I have never been. I have always wanted to go. 6,000 animals, the iconic food court, demos from top PA chefs at the Culinary Connection, and of course, that butter sculpture. Choose local, choose PA Preferred. Visit papreferred.com. That's papreferred.com. Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars. Let's talk about how Block Communications communicated this to everybody. Staff, as we understand it, got 45 minutes notice before a Zoom type call where they had a 3-minute recording from Block Communications saying, this is what's going to happen. It ended, no opportunity for questions. This was all yesterday afternoon around 1:30. And then the statement that they put out on their own website, there's no mention of any attempts to sell the asset, the Post-Gazette. We've seen all over the country, newspapers get sold and sometimes by organizations. We do not want to own them if you live in those communities. But I'm surprised that something with the value and the history of the legacy of the Post-Gazette wasn't shopped. And maybe it is. I think that's my question, Andy, is this an effort to goose a sale? Are they trying to let the market know? What's the strategy behind this?
I think that's one question that a lot of people are asking today, especially because they're saying we're going to close the paper in 5 months from now. So is it a ploy? But I think on the other hand, the owners of the Post-Gazette have been very forthright about the fact that they've been losing lots of money on this product, and that if they didn't get a favorable court ruling, that they would have to close. And so they're making good on what they said they were going to do. So I think you have to take it seriously.
And we should say all of this is coming in context with a 3-year work stoppage that just ended. I feel like everyone in town has at least been aware of the strike. In case you did miss it, the strike started in 2022. A couple dozen people had been on strike that whole time for over 3 years and just went back to work in November after winning in court. And that is when we got the first hint of this threat you were talking about. So the Block brothers said then that if the opinion isn't overturned, that they'd just close. It's since gone all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and it seemed like maybe the justices were going to consider the Post-Gazette's case, but the court decided yesterday morning that no, they're not going to take the case, which means the union won in court after court, and now the Blocks are we're just going to take our ball and go home.
The frustration they must be feeling today, right? They went on strike for over 3 years. What a horrible experience that was. You finally get a favorable ruling. They finally go back to work, only to find out that the place that they were working at now is going out of business. That's a horrible experience. And, for us who work in this field, these are our friends. These are people that we communicate with on a regular basis and that we care about deeply. And to see them suffering in this way, along with all the other journalists who are going to be losing their jobs and who have lost their jobs. It's frustrating. I try to stay positive in this thing. I'm pretty much a glass half full kind of guy, but
I do know that about you.
It's challenging. It's discouraging. It's overwhelming. It feels Sisyphean at times. We do this, cool work in this news space, and then the stone rolls back down the hill. And that said, I will say there's a lot of positive stuff happening here. I mean, CityCast is a positive thing that's happening in our community. Inform Up, Chris Mowry, the work he's doing covering City Hall and engaging audiences in a different way. You've still got the Tribune Review has been an important player in this community for a long, long time. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be here. The Butler Eagle, the Mon Valley Independent, the Newcastle News, Beaver County Times, all these news organizations are still out there. They're part of the Pittsburgh Media Partnership. We have 35 news outlets that have said we feel better about working together for ourselves and for the community. There's a lot to feel positive about. It's just, this still feels like a gut punch in the first days of learning about the news.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's easy to say this externally, like this is not my job. This is not my livelihood. And it is for many of my closest friends, truly. But if I step back, I think among my reflexive reactions is also that maybe block communications removing themselves from the conversation is a step towards the best case scenario. If they step back, what could be built of the Post-Gazette or from the Post-Gazette in the future? And that's the part that excites me in this, what is otherwise a very bleak moment.
A lot of people have been thinking about it for a long time, but this is a renewed opportunity, a moment of crisis where it calls people to come together and do something collectively. And I cannot remove the public from that. The audience is a key part of this. We're all in this together, and we all have to work on it together.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like a tangible action, I want our nonprofit community to stand up in this moment. I want our foundations to be part of whatever comes next. I think this is their moment to create some kind of runway for them to pick up and go forward.
Yeah. Somebody's got to pay you guys, right?
We'll leave it there. Here at CityCast, we are going to talk more about this tomorrow on our Roundup show. Andy, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I think just stay positive and get involved. Hug a journalist.
That is all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. You can support local journalism by becoming a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor. All the details are at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow with more from around the city. We'll talk to you soon.
I hope you get a bunch of sandwiches out of this. So.
Oh, I hope the PG gets sandwiches. I don't need any sandwiches.